students. Today we are going to be moving on to cycles. It's kind of, this really kind of goes along with Earth Day, which was our last lesson. But the next part, if we were still sitting in the classroom today, the next part that we would be moving on to is different Earth cycles. So this first cycle, I'm going to go through this one very quickly because it should be a review. Honestly, you should have probably learned the water cycle, goodness, probably even in third grade or so. But just a very quick review, there is going to be one new word that I show you. To have the water cycle, we start here. I have a cloud, and by the way, I know you love my drawings. But this first cloud here, it's raining. When rain falls from the sky, or maybe not, I shouldn't say rain, but when water falls from the sky as rain, sleet, snow, hail, we call that precipitation. And I'm going to try to write that small so that I have enough room for all this. But yes, precipitation is when water falls from the sky. Okay, so I have it falling from the sky as precipitation. Now, once it falls down in here into this lake or pond or whatever it is that I've drawn here, it has two options. Option number one is that some of this water, I'm going to draw squiggly lines here, because what I'm trying to represent is that some of this water is actually going to turn back into a gas and start to rise. When that happens, that is called evaporation. There we go. My tongue got twisted there. Evaporation, so that's when a liquid water turns back into a gas. Now, some of the water won't turn back into a gas. It'll actually get, and I didn't draw any roots here. These are the roots to this tree. Some of the water will get pulled into different plants' roots. So that's an option there too. Once it's in the plant, and this is your new word, whether it's a tree or grass or flower or whatever, but plants will lose water through their leaves. Sorry, that's our bell here at school. I'm at school. Plants will lose water through their leaves. When they do that, that is called transpiration, not transportation like you're driving in a car or something, but transpiration. Again, that is when plants of any type of plant, doesn't have to be a tree, plants lose water through their leaves, and it does get evaporated. Now, when these two things, I'll draw this squiggly line here and I'll continue this one going up to the cloud. When these two things get up in our atmosphere to form clouds, we call that condensation. Because what's happening is this gas form of water is turning back into droplets of water, which is a liquid form. Now, once the cloud condenses so much that it becomes heavy, then it's going to rain down again as precipitation. So, guys, we should, if we can see this whole picture, since it's called a water cycle, we should see that in our arrows, and I think we do. We see that it just continues and continues, and that's why we call it a cycle. Okay, so this one should not be new. Everybody should know the water cycle. This next one should be new. Yes, that's a cow. This is the carbon cycle. So I want you all to pay close attention. You are going to have a homework question at the end of this. But pay attention, I'm going to show you the carbon cycle right now. Now, carbon can be abbreviated with a capital C. Carbon is very important in living things. Actually, to be a living thing, you have to have carbon in you. And we do as humans, and animals do. That's why I put a cow in this picture. Plants do. Anything that is a living has carbon in it. So carbon's very important. So carbon cycles through our atmosphere, or through, I'm sorry, not the atmosphere, but through our, well, the atmosphere and our earth and living creatures. It cycles through just like the water cycle did. So here's how it cycles through. Now I'm going to start out with this tree. The first thing I'm going to do is not talk about the carbon cycle. I want to talk about photosynthesis, because that actually plays a role here. If this tree were going to carry out photosynthesis, first it's going to take in sunlight, because that's one of the things it needs for photosynthesis. It's also going to take in, I'm just going to put H2O for water. It's going to take water in through its roots, and It's going to also take in carbon dioxide. Now, where would carbon dioxide come from? Oh, it's when we exhale, or when a cow exhales. So when this cow exhales, okay, blows out air, or even when we blow out air, it lets out carbon dioxide. So once the plant takes in all three of those things, it will make sugar for itself, and it will keep that sugar, and it's going to release oxygen, which will then be taken in probably by the cow or us or any breathing creature. Now, I know we haven't yet talked about the carbon cycle, but we have a little cycle going on here where the cow is exhaling, then inhaling, exhaling, inhaling. That little cycle is called respiration. We do respiration when we breathe, okay? When you inhale, exhale, yes, it's breathing, but you're respirating, okay? Respiration. So that's part of the carbon cycle. Now, the next part is kind of sad, and I don't mean to upset anyone, but like all living creatures, whether it be the cow or whether it be the tree or the flower or whatever plant this could be, these things, and again, I'm not trying to make anyone sad or whatever, but these things will eventually die. And when that happens, a very important part of the food chain is going to come along, the decomposers. Decomposers are very important because they break down anything that is dead, whether it be plant or animal. Decomposers are things like worms or even certain types of funguses or bacteria, things like that. But it's going to break down anything that dies. So they're very important to our world, even though they're usually small. Now, once the decomposers have broken down the things that contained the carbon, well, they kind of do two things. Sometimes some of the carbon gets released back into the soil. Okay, but a lot of the times the carbon's going to stay within the soil and turn into fossil fuels. Now, fossil fuels, we use them a lot as humans. That is your coal, your oil, your natural gas, things like that. So those decomposers will release, I'm going to label this as carbon here, will release that carbon, and over a long period of time, that carbon's going to turn into fossil fuel. Now, here's where we're getting ready for some homework. We as humans build factories. This is going to be a factory. Don't make fun of my factory. Kind of looks like a house. Maybe I'll put some little like smokestacks on top here. Okay, so that's a factory. We as humans come along and we build factories, and we take that fossil fuel, whether it's the coal or the oil or natural gas, and we use that fossil fuel. Now, the problem is here. What's being released is carbon dioxide. When you burn fossil fuels, when you drive in a car or use electricity or whatever, it's burning fossil fuels. Now, some of this carbon dioxide, some of it can get taken in by plants, believe it or not. The plants can actually take in some of that carbon dioxide and use it for photosynthesis. So, if we were putting off just a little bit, that's okay. Plants can do that. The problem is we as humans are putting out way too much carbon dioxide from our fossil fuels that we're using. So a lot of it just escapes and gets trapped in the atmosphere. So my homework question for you guys this week is to tell me what happens when we are letting off this extra carbon dioxide. And there's actually a word that I want you to search. Whoops, sorry. It's called the greenhouse effect. And I'm kind of giving you away I'm giving you the answer, but I want you guys to look that up. What happens when we get this greenhouse effect? What does that do to our planet? Just like I said, search it. So what I want you guys to do for your homework is you're going to give me one paragraph. And guys, I know I'm asking you to write a lot. I know I asked you to write last week. But you writing tells me that you're actually looking this up and doing a little bit of research. So here's your carbon cycle. Let's review. You have this process of respiration going on with plants and animals. Sadly, the plants and the animals will eventually die, and the decomposers will come along and break them down. Some of the carbon will stay in the soil. Some of the carbon's going to stay underground and turn into fossil fuel. The fossil fuel gets used by humans. That carbon dioxide, some of it can go back and get, whoops, that's a little blurry there. Come on. Some of the carbon dioxide can get used by the plants again, and that would be perfectly wonderful. But then the problem comes from this little piece here. When too much carbon dioxide gets put into the atmosphere, we get the greenhouse effect. I want you guys giving me one paragraph on what is the greenhouse effect. Explain it to me. Tell me what it does to our planet. That's your assignment. Message me your answers through LiveGrades. And obviously, if you have any questions, you can message me that as well. Have a great day, guys. Bye.